or limb, as the case might be, to attend the days when things like malnutrition was very rampant, not so much basically difficult IV fluids in that regard. Sometimes you had to use the arm, sometimes you had to use the leg, somewhere where you could have gotten a vein. It was really difficult. Um, but anyway, the most common cause of such excess pressure in the leg veins is gravity due to the long periods of standing or age-related changes in the leg veins. And leg swelling is also often a premenstrual sign, probably because the small blood vessels become leaky for unknown reasons. Now, leg swelling also occurs during pregnancy, mainly because the pressure of the enlarged uterus slows the return of blood from the leg veins to the heart. And if you're pregnant, excessive persistent swelling of your feet can indicate a condition called preeclampsia and should be reported to your doctor immediately. Friends, let us branch off a little bit here into preeclampsia, and it's spelled P-R-E-E, right? C-L-A-M-P-S-I-A. Now, preeclampsia is a complication of pregnancy. With preeclampsia, you might have the woman would have high blood pressure, might have high blood pressure, high levels of protein in the urine that indicate kidney damage, and that is called in medicine proteinuria. Yes, proteinuria, or other signs of organ damage. Preeclampsia usually begins after 20 weeks of pregnancy in women whose blood pressure had previously been in the standard range, right? The systolic and the diastolic are within normal range. The above figure, the bottom figure, within normal range. And left untreated, preeclampsia can lead to serious, even fatal complications for both the mother and the baby. And this is why it's so important to be checked out properly, regularly during pregnancy. And again, left untreated, preeclampsia can lead to serious, even fatal complications for both the mother and the baby. In another program, we will take a closer look at preeclampsia. Yes, I think it's useful information for us to share, with our listeners. I believe monthly. Another common cause, of swelling of the legs is varicose veins, and we won't get into that tonight. But I'm sure many of you, women and men, would have seen other persons, if not you yourself, with, like, for example, raised veins on the legs. This is very common amongst barbers or people who stand for long periods, nurses, teachers, and so on, police officers, and so on. And we'll take a closer look at that in another program, right? So, again, another common cause is varicose veins, which also slow the return of blood from leg veins to the heart. Other swollen legs are seldom an emergency. They can sometimes signal a medical problem, such as blood clot, infection, or heart failure. Swelling can also be a sign of malnutrition or serious disorders of the liver, kidneys, or intestine. Again, I guess the message is clear here. If there's any swelling, unusual swelling, sudden swelling of your legs, it's important for you to seek medical attention as soon as possible. Now, several simple, effective measures can help release swelling. In a reclining position, elevate your feet. Wearing support hose or socks can also help. Walking can help improve swelling from varicose veins. And for persons who are overweight, weight loss is beneficial because it reduces pressure on the veins of the legs. Now, swollen legs can also be helped by dietary changes, especially by cutting down on the sodium or salt in one's diet. And if these approaches fail, your doctor may prescribe what is called a diuretic drug to increase the rate at which your body excretes fluids. Your doctor should check your potassium level if you're taking a diuretic. And I want to zero in on that a wee bit, Monty, the whole question of diuretics. And like we just said, diuretics are a common treatment for high blood pressure, also known as hypertension. I remember as a youngster growing up, uh, hearing older folks in my neighborhood, in my circle, talking about taking a pill that was called, I think it was DeWitt's pig pill, DeWitt's pill, and that was essentially a diuretic, and that was taken. I remember quite well when folks were having what they called then stoppage of water, which was really a prostate problem, right? And that was the way they were treated then, right? But a diuretic is what we just said, right? They tend to lower blood pressure by helping the body pass sodium and water through the urine. So for someone who is, say, having problems with passing urine, years ago, that was the drug of choice. These days, diuretics have been used a lot in treating persons living with high blood pressure or hypertension. And some diuretics also cause the body to pass more potassium in the urine. This can lead to low potassium levels in the bloodstream, also called hypokalemia. Now, this is very, very important. Very, very important. Now, typically, one's blood potassium level should be between 3.6 to 5.2. This is just a measurement, millimoles per liter. And a blood potassium level of less than 3, right, millimeters level can be life-threatening, and it requires urgent medical attention. And some of the symptoms of low potassium level might be a feeling of being very tired, irregular heart rhythms, also called arrhythmias, muscle cramps, weakness. And the treatment for low potassium levels may include changing of the diuretic, the medication that you're taking. It might also include eating more foods that are high in potassium, or taking potassium supplements. Level is still low even after taking steps to raise it. Talk with your healthcare team. You may need tests to help find the cause. And I would suggest strongly, to add to that, that you don't go about making changes to your medication, or just embarking on a new diet and things like that, or taking potassium supplements without having a serious conversation with your prescribing physician, the person who's prescribing for you. And if you're living with high blood pressure, it is something that your doctor should do on a regular basis. I would suggest a yearly basis. If you're living with high blood pressure, you should be checking your blood levels, your blood chemistry should be checked yearly, especially when it comes to checking for your potassium level. Like we just said, it is life-threatening, and if it's below 3, or thereabout per liter, millimoles per liter, it is very, very dangerous. Also, you can have hyper potassium levels, but we won't get into that today. But when you have hypopotassium levels as a result of probably living with high blood pressure and taking medication, then it is important. It's important for your doctor to run some tests and make some changes. Probably there's so many antihypertensive medications, many medications out there, and between you and your doctor and your dietitian, and your probably your naturopathic doctor, and so on, you can make some adjustments. It's very, very important. It's not sufficient to be taking the medication that your doctor prescribed for you for high blood pressure and living with symptoms and just trying to deal with them on your own. We're suggesting strongly here on the program that you pay close attention to the symptoms that you might be experiencing as a result of taking some of these antihypertensive medications. Very, very important. Things like feeling very tired, muscle cramps, weakness, irregular heartbeats, and things like that. You definitely want to stay in touch with your doctor and strongly encourage your doctor to make sure he or she gives you a referral, to get some blood works done to see where you are with your potassium level. If you're taking any form of diuretic, any form of medication in the treatment of high blood pressure. Friends, we'll continue talking about some of these issues in our next program, but we'll take a break here. And when we come back, the tea leaves and the tea hats have it. Manti.
It's the Vin Abbott Show with news, views, and interviews. The music in the mix on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Kankadi Radio.
Every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. you will hear a old-time story by Gene Abbott on
BAYHILLNEWSNETWORK.
Parish of Holy Trinity presents May Day Fair Thursday 1st May 2025 on the grounds of Holy Trinity Parish, Georgetown from 1 p.m. until. There'll be delicious local dishes, barbecue, sauce, kalalo soup, and madongo. Yes, madongo. Plus games, sweets, a planned stall. Yes, May Day Fair will be fun, food, and entertainment in Georgetown. Holy Trinity Parish grounds, 1 p.m. until, with music by New Flavor Sounds.
The St. George's Cathedral Fundraising Committee invites you to the Tea with an Attitude in appreciation of the role of mothers in our lives. Sunday, May 11th, 2025, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Good Guides Headquarters, Low Kingstown Park, price $30. Special attractions, hat parade and Chinese auction. Takeaway service is also available. Proceeds in aid of the restoration of St. George's Cathedral. It's Tea with an Attitude, May 11th.
You can now order your roti skins from Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins at telephone 1784-528-2979 or pick up Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins at Randy's Supermarket. More products are coming soon from Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins.
Hey Vincent Unity Picnic fam, it's Marian Duncan from the SVG Association of Ottawa, and guess what? Vincent Unity Picnic Canada 2025 is coming your way. Mark your calendars, July 19th, 2025 at the Chrysler Park Marina. This year, bigger, bolder, and more fun for everyone. Kids Village? Oh yeah, I'm gonna be part of that village. Bring the creativity, the fun, and the big stage moments. Food, music, culture, vibes, all day long. Don't miss out. Send us an email at vincentunitypicnic@gmail.com to stay in the loop. Vincent Unity Picnic 2025. It's gonna be epic. See you there.
Looking for a place to relax with natural cool breeze and friendly surroundings? Then check the Bay Hill Tree Bar, located at Bay Hill Cane Garden. We have everything a bar will have. We also sell Shell 20 pounds cooking gas at the Bay Hill Tree Bar. Network presents Inside Health, 30-minute program in which we explore the human body and functions. We'll share real-life stories of the latest in medical science as we look at related diseases, conditions, and determinants of health that affect quality of life. So join me, Vin Abbott, on Wednesday evenings from 8:30 for Inside Health on BAYHILL News Network, also on KankadiRadio.info.
Welcome back to Inside Health. And sincerely hope all is going well with you. Now, on hearing those ads, for what will be happening here in Ontario for Vincent Unity Picnic, the Steel Pan Music and all of that, nice ad indeed. And then hearing about the tea parties coming up, in the Georgetown area on the 1st of May, May Day Fair, and on the grounds there in Kingstown, the St. George's Cathedral, the tea party. It will be an affair with an attitude. So difficult to say attitude, right? Some of our friends from Jamaica use the H, right? attitude, attitude. But yes, we get it. Attitude is going to be an affair with attitude. And we want to talk a wee bit about this. You know, I think it's so important for us on these times, given all the pressures and circumstances under which we are living, the stressful nature of the world today. It's important for us to go out and have fun, clean fun. And I'm so happy that the St. George's Cathedral, the fundraising committee, is again organizing this tea party. And when Monty forwarded me the voice there to do, I began reflecting on what it used to be like, in my younger days growing up in Georgetown in the church with the organizations around attending tea parties. And I am so happy. We sincerely hope that the young people in the church and the communities around will go out and support these activities. These activities were meant to be intergenerational. You have the folks from the Mothers Union, you have the Fathers Guild, you have the youth organizations, you have different organizations in the church with elders and so on. It's a beautiful occasion for us to come together as one community and celebrate in a very fun way. And again, when I look back on my young days, I reflect with a lot of joy and happiness, pleasant memories growing up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, according to Candyland, the history of tea party dates back to the 17th century when tea party was first introduced to Europe. Tea parties were a popular way for socialites or the social elites and members of high society to gather and share stories and and gossip in elegant settings. I don't know how many of you look at English TV shows and things like that, soap operas and so on. There's a show that we on Kankadi Radio like to look at. It's called Are You Being Served? And there's a main character in that show. I'm trying to remember her name. Hyacinth. Hyacinth was one of those persons who was not a rich person, but she presented herself as being up there in high class society at the peril of a husband and folks around her, right? So, and looking at the English history, I could see how that used to be the case, where folks who were not that well off, but were able to socialize at tea parties and so on. Now, again, for us in the Caribbean, for us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, tea parties in our day, in our young days, they were really meant to raise funds for the church, yes, and the schools. And I do not know if these things still happen in the schools, but they were, again, well attended by members of the community. We did not have the Chinaware and all of that, the fanciful pieces and so on, sets like they had in Europe, but we were able to use what we had at our disposal, our little teacups and so on. We didn't have probably the biscuits and all of that they had in England, but we were able to shape our sandwiches that were different than how we normally would prepare sandwiches and little biscuits and things like that. Those were fun days, the music and the gatherings and things like that. Those were great days. So this event that is happening on May the 11th down there on St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be held in honor of the mothers, the role the mothers play in our lives. We on this program are really encouraging folks to go out and support this event and other tea parties, other events like, the tea parties, the May Day Fair and things like that. And while we're saying this, you might be asking the question, what the hell does this have to do with health and well-being? But again, I remind you, we often talk about the determinants of health. The determinants of health are so important. It's not only about the hospitals or the medical services. It's not only about the pharmacies and all of that. It's about what our culture, play such an important role in our lives. Just imagine going to one of those tea parties and having a conversation with say an elder, and just reflecting on how it used to be years ago. You never know what information you'll get from that conversation, what advice, what kind of connection you'll be able to make just going to a tea party and hanging out there with the folks at the function that'll be happening in Kingstown on May the 11th. We are inviting you, we're encouraging you to go out and support that event. And I don't know if you'll be participating in the in the hat parade. If you want some advice, we can give you some advice if you plan to participate. I don't know if there'll be a competition in that regard, but we can talk with you next week about how to choose the perfect hat. We can talk with you about sizing up the atmosphere, and also the theme of the party. We can talk with you about a dress code. We can talk with you about accessories and more as you prepare for this tea party on May the 11th. It's all good, healthy stuff. Go out and support, and you won't regret it, I can assure you. On that note, that's where we want to end the program this evening, because the tea leaves have it, and so do the hat parades, right? In our program next week as well, we'll talk a wee bit about teas, the importance of teas to our health and well-being. Many of us grew up on bush tea on St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Caribbean, and all. And there are many, many reports out there, many pieces of research that show that tea does have benefits, health benefits. And I'll be presenting a review from a piece that was done, reading the tea leaves, the anti-carcinogenic properties of teas, the epigallocatine 3 galat. We'll talk about that. It was done by Jennifer R. Carlson, BS, Brente Boa, MD, and Vincent, MBBS, MD, Paul J. Limborg, that is MD, MPH, and Ted Wilson, PhD. So we'll delve into this a little bit. We'll look at, what the findings are, what they set out to do. They said green tea is extremely popular beverage worldwide, and derivatives of green tea, particularly EGCG, have been proposed to have anti-carcinogenic properties based on preclinical, observational, and clinical trial data. We'll talk about that some more. Basically saying that research shows, based on all these different methods of research, that they have properties to fight off cancer. And we'll take that up in our program next week as well. Once again, go out and have fun with the St. George's Cathedral at their tea party on May the 11th. And again, hats off to the mothers of the world. Stay with us. Coming up shortly, we'll have Jean with Old Time Stories. Stay with us, my friends. Monty, if you can just run some ads, and Jean will be ready to go with you immediately after that. Friends, thank you for being there. We invite you to join us next Wednesday evening for another Inside Health.
30-minute program in which we explore the human body and functions. We'll share real-life stories of the latest in medical science as we look at related diseases, conditions, and determinants of health that affect quality of life.
So join me, Vin Abbott, on Wednesday evenings from 8:30
For Inside Health on BAYHILLNEWSNET, also on KincardioRadio.info.
So, go ahead. When you just listen, when
It's the
stops,
Vin
you
Abbott
hear Old
Show
Time
with
Story, Gina,
news,
and it
views,
stops.
and interviews. The music in the mix on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Kincardie Radio.
When in Antigua, travel with Orvan Bully Bus services between Pigot's Village and St. John's on Old Fareham Road. We also conduct island tours 7 days per week, all in comfort, style, and safety. For more information, contact Orvan Bully 1268-764-2869. That's 1268-764-2869.
Every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. you will hear a old time story by Jean Abbott on
BAYHILLNEWS.net.
Listen, Jean. You're listening. Hi, Jean.
Good night, everyone. Tonight we're going to continue reading from the book, The Journey of a West Indian Soul by Isabel Lewis. Last time we were together, we heard about the yard, the village. Tonight we're going to talk about my family's yard. During the early years of my childhood, I never knew a father, and I have never in my life felt a need for a father. I was born in a small two-room thatch house located in my family's yard. There were 5 single two-room houses in my family's yard, 3 lumber houses, and 2 thatch houses. None of them had indoor plumbing or electricity and had outhouses for kitchens and latrines. Like most of the villagers, we fetched water from the village pipe or spring, and we cooked and baked with wood fire. The villagers referred to us as the Latin family, and my great-grandmother was the matriarch. Everyone in the village called her Ma Latin after her surname, but our family called her simply Ma. We were the only family in the village, indeed in the island, with the last name of Latin, a name of French origin. My great-grandfather, Ma's husband, was from Martinique, another Caribbean island, which remains even today one of France's colonies. I never knew my great-grandfather, nor do I remember hearing my family talk much about him. I think he must have died before I was born. Ma was over 80, approximately 5 feet 4 inches tall, and light in complexion, with unblemished skin as soft as papaya. She had grayish-looking eyes and white, soft shoulder-length hair. She spoke in a soft, firm voice that demanded attention and respect. Because of her complexion, I often wonder whether a slave master had raped one of Ma's ancestors, making Ma a descendant of a mixed-breed slave. I will probably never know for sure, but I still wonder. As the matriarch of our family, Ma was full of wisdom. We all looked to her for guidance. My family told me that Ma named me Lola when I was born, but that name was never recorded on my birth certificate. Still, the villagers, including my family, called me Lola. For a long time, Lola was the only name I knew of. Because of Ma's insistence, very few people would ever know my real name. I was the first great-grandchild to be born to Ma Latin in our family's yard, and I was special to my entire family. Few of Ma's children were light in complexion with special-looking grayish eyes like hers, but her grandchildren were darker, except for me. I believe that because of my lighter complexion, my family was much more attentive to me than to the other children. The other children in my family yard slept on the floor at night. I slept on the bed with Ma or my mommy, who was my grandmother, who I thought was my mother. I can never remember sleeping on the floor. I knew I was special to my family. I would like to believe that I was special to my family for reasons other than the shade of the color of my skin, but time has led me to believe otherwise. Ma taught me to say the Our Father when I awoke in the morning and before I went to bed at night. Known for her cleanliness, she brushed my teeth every morning before breakfast and at night before I went to bed. and later taught me how to brush my own teeth with cane fiber. In those days, people sucked the juice from sugarcane plants and then used the fibers to brush their teeth. Ma used to fetch water from the river in a pail, and she would then give me a bath behind her house. She took care of me as a mother would have. Ma had 9 living children that I know of, and I can only imagine that she must have been a good mother to all of them. Uncle Josie was Ma's youngest son and seemed to be her favorite child. All of Ma's sons had moved out of our family yard except for Uncle Josie. He continued to live with his mother and became very protective of her. He was a loving, kind-hearted man. I believe he should have become a preacher because he prayed constantly and acted so much like a good Christian. He treated all the children well, especially those in our family yard. But I knew I was his favorite. I was the one he would lift up and carry on his back. And I remember his throwing me into the air and catching me. Uncle Josie treated me as the fathers of the other children in my family yard treated their daughters. He would tell me how much he loved me, calling me his little princess. For a very long time, I thought that Uncle Josie really was my father, even though no one told me to call him Daddy. I think that was because of his fatherly interest in me. Uncle Josie taught the children in my family to love one another and to know the difference between right and wrong. The other children bonded with Uncle Josie in various ways, but I bonded with him as a child would with a parent. I knew that I meant a lot to him, but I wondered whether he knew how much he meant to me. One day, Uncle Josie lifted me up and held me in his arms, kissing me on the cheek. He began to cry. "Little princess," he said, "I am leaving to go down south." I had no idea what he meant being only 4 years old. He said that he wanted me to be able to wear pretty dresses, as I had been accustomed to do. For you to continue to dress in pretty dresses, Uncle Josie has to find work. "And there's plenty of work down south," he said to me. As he dried the tears from his watery, grayish-looking eyes, Uncle Josie tried to explain that he would work to earn plenty of money so that he could buy me pretty things. He thought I should understand, but I didn't. Uncle Josie cried as he assured me he would take good care of me. Then he kissed me again, told me to be a good girl to Ma and Mommy until his return, and left. I saw him wiping the tears from his eyes as he walked away. I ran after my uncle, this well-dressed, 5 feet 6 inches tall man, with brown complexion and soft black hair. I begged him to let me go along with him. Someone picked me up and carried me to Ma's house as I tried to get loose, kicking and crying. I must have fallen asleep, because I awoke in Ma's bed screaming at the top of my lungs, "Uncle Josie, Uncle Josie, where is Uncle Josie?" Ma heard my scream. She rushed to me, hugged me, and tried to calm me, but I kept asking to see Uncle Josie. Ma explained that Uncle Josie had gone down south to find work. I learned later that going down south meant going to Trinidad, another Caribbean island south of St. Vincent. With Uncle Josie gone, I was attended to more by Ma, Mommy, and Beulah, one of my mommy's daughters. I missed Uncle Josie and made wishes for his return, but he never came back. He wrote and sent money to Ma and Mommy to support me, and he sent word through his letters assuring me of his love. One day my godmother arrived from Trinidad and delivered to Ma a suitcase full of clothes from Uncle Josie. When Ma opened the suitcase, she found that most of the clothes in the suitcase were from me. I saw that Uncle Josie had sent the pretty clothes he had promised to send to me. Ma allowed me to try the clothes on, piece by piece, but she insisted that they were to wear only to church. Soon after I had tried on the last piece, she packed them all away. I was then too young to walk the long distance to church, but I hoped I would soon be able to. I was anxious to wear the new clothes from my Uncle Josie. Some of the other children in my yard were attending the village school, but I was not. I was not happy to be kept from attending school. Sometimes I would sneak out of the yard, following the other children to school and into their classroom. When my family noticed that I was missing from the yard, or the teachers sent word for them to come and get me, one of them would come to the school and take me back. At these times, I felt like a recaptured runaway slave. I would cry and scream, begging them to let me stay in school with the other children. But they took me home anyway. Ma would try to explain that I wasn't old enough to go to school, but I wouldn't listen. I ran away to school time and time again. I was over 4 years old, but not yet 5. I couldn't wait to turn 5, the age at which I could begin school. As I continued in this way, word of my persistence reached the principal of the school. This soft-spoken petite woman made an exception for me, allowing me to attend school for half a day before I was old enough to be admitted. So I went to school properly each morning, and Ma was successful in preventing me from running away and returning to school with the other children in the afternoon, even though I tried. I was happy when I reached age 5 and was able to spend the entire day in school. As soon as I was eligible to attend school for the whole day, Ma insisted that I attend church too. Walking to church was tiring. There were times when I was so tired that I could only walk very slowly to and from church. As a result, my cousins and I would be late for church and would be the last ones to return home. If I had told Ma that the distance from home to church was too much for me, I'm sure she would have kept me at home. But I didn't want to stay home. I wanted to wear the pretty dresses Uncle Josie had sent me, and I was allowed to wear them only when I went to church. I believe I looked elegant in those dresses, and I felt flattered by the many compliments I received from members of the church. Although I hated walking, I loved attending church. The songs of the congregation reminded me of the times when Uncle Josie used to sing to us children in our yard. At this stage in my life, I enjoyed everything: people, church, school, and Sunday school. The school teachers taught us nursery rhymes like Little Jack Horner. The Sunday school teachers taught us songs like Jesus Loves the Little Children of the World, along with many verses from the Bible. The only one I could remember and repeat was a short phrase from the New Testament: Jesus wept. I repeated the verse to my family, especially Ma, all the time. Ma did not attend church, but she was a very religious person. I think it was too far for her to walk. There were times when my family would gather in our yard and ask the children to sing and recite Bible verses. It appeared that they were counting on me to do most of this, despite my young age. I recited verses from the Bible I had learned in Sunday school and nursery rhymes I had learned in the school in the village, and I sang songs I learned from both. After each performance, my family cheered, applauded, and hugged me, and I would hear them saying among themselves that I was the smartest of the children in our yard. I loved the attention and praise I received from everyone. I remember other happy events from my early childhood. One of the villagers, a member of our church, Mrs. Wallace, had become fond of me. Ma permitted Mrs. Wallace to take me with her to functions at different churches, especially to harvest programs. Mrs. Wallace taught me poems for me to recite at our harvest programs. When the master of ceremonies called my name, I would walk to the stage, well dressed in one of my pretty dresses Uncle Josie had sent me, Before I recited the poem, I would bow to the crowd, and I bowed again before leaving the stage. The crowd seated inside the church clapped enthusiastically. Sometimes some of them shouted, "Repeat, repeat!" And I would then walk back to the stage and recite the poem again. Afterwards, Mrs. Wallace would hug me and tell me how good my performance was. She was very kind to me and took me other places besides church. One day, Mrs. Wallace told me I had been chosen to present a bouquet to an important person who was visiting my island. Maybe a queen or a princess, I cannot recall. That day, Mrs. Wallace combed my hair neatly and tied it with pretty ribbons to match the prettiest of my dresses. I wore white gloves, which covered my arms up to the elbow. Carrying a bouquet of carnations and roses, I walked to the crossroads outside my village, where a crowd of children and adults had gathered. Some of the adults were dressed up, and the children were wearing clean school uniforms. I don't know whether it was mandatory for children to wear uniforms to school, but we all did. Most of the adults and the children as well were waving St. Vincent's flag, singing, "God save our gracious Queen." I was standing beside another girl who was dressed like me, also wearing gloves and carrying a bouquet. We stood side by side before the cheering crowd. A car drove up and stopped near us. A window of the car was lowered slightly, and I saw sitting in the back seat a well-dressed white woman wearing gloves that covered her arms up to the elbows. She reached out and shook hands with me and the other girl standing next to me. As we had been instructed, we bowed and presented the bouquets to her. The crowd continued to sing as the car drove away. Everyone, including Mrs. Wallace and my cousins, seemed excited that I had met and shaken hands with this important lady. I wasn't excited at all and had no clue why others were. I would rather have been at home in my yard than standing in the hot sun awaiting the arrival of this white woman. And we're going to stay there for tonight until our next reading. Have a good night, everyone.
Every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. you will hear a old time story by Jean Abbott on
BAYHILLNEWS.net.